right, so I'm Morten from Sweden, and I'm going to talk about Neuromotus, which is our novel treatment for phantom limb pain. So, if I can, all right. So, what are phantom limbs? Well, what they are not are the limbs that phantoms has. They are not related to ghosts. They're related to real people. They're related to amputees. Amputees are a person, as you probably know, who have lost an arm or a leg, or maybe both arms, as this poor fellow here. And these people, they can still feel their missing limb. This is a so-called phantom limb. And this limb is often in a painful state. So the cause of this is thought to be something that is called cortical reorganization. And basically, it's about that we have a part of the brain that is responsible for the sense of touch. And when we lose the hand, that part of the brain is not used anymore for that specific part. So if you lose a hand, there will be a spot there that is not in use anymore. And then the other areas will impose on that area. And that causes the pain. This is at least the current theory. So this is treated nowadays by something that's called the mirror box training. And the idea is that you have a box with a mirror, and then you put your sound limb in that box, and then because of the mirror, it reflects and gives the illusion that you actually have your missing limb intact. And then the clinician will tell the patient that they should try to move the phantom. And normally they will move their sound limb at the same time, so they will do movements like this, and then they should, with the phantom limb, do the same motion. But there are some problems with this treatment. Oh, sorry. So it's limited motions you have, because you are constrained by the box. And also, you are dependent on the opposing limb. So the guy we just saw who had lost both hands, no luck for him. Also, it's very hard for the clinicians to know if the patients actually move the phantom limb. Maybe they only move the sound limb, but don't understand how they should move the phantom limb. So because of these problems, the efficacy of this treatment, it varies a lot. So how do we get them to move the phantom limb? Well, we try to make them want to. And this is where we get in. So our original research background is from prosthetic limbs. This is a so-called myoelectric prosthetic, which is the most modern kind of arm prosthetics out there. They work by having electrodes that are on the stump of the patient, and then by sensing muscle signals, you can actuate the hand of this prosthetic. However, these do not work very well. They're not that stable, and they have problems in some environmental conditions. And the way you use the muscles is not that naturally. So many patients still use a system like this. This is more than 100 years old. It's basically you have a hook, and then you have a cable going from that hook to the opposing shoulder. And then by moving your shoulder, you can either open or close this hook. And this system is like, it cannot break. It's so simple, and it's cheap, and it's easy. So this is what we're doing. This is a demo of how we have made a system where you can control this myoelectric hand the way you would normally. And as you see, in this demo, there are some electrodes on the forearm, and those electrodes pick up the muscle signals. And the idea is that if you imagine that this person, he did not have the hand, he will still have the muscles in the forearm. And normally when patients will use this kind of prosthetic, they will use it in the same way as they will use the natural limb, with our system, that is. So they will be kind of the same as if they want to move the phantom limb, because that also activates the muscle synergies. So one day, we had a patient who had a lot of this phantom limb pain. And we were like open-minded and said, oh, try to come to our clinic. Maybe you should try some of our training systems. So we invited him, and this is basically what it looks like. So if it would start, all right. So there is some kind of problem here. Okay, it isn't. Okay, I'll see if I can get the other one to work. Okay, so there's unfortunately a problem with the video, but the idea is that we have a system where we read the same kind of muscle signals. Okay, great, thank you. So we have electrodes on the arm of the patient here that record the muscle activity. Then we have a standard webcam that shows the patient and a monitor. And then on the patient as well, we have a so-called fiduciary marker that the computer can detect with the webcam. And what we do is that we put a virtual limb on the stump of the patient. So this is like an advanced mirror box where the patient uses their actual muscles in the stump to control this virtual arm. So this gives patient a more lifelike simulation, and they also move the phantom, because if they don't move the phantom, this virtual arm would not move. And so we have this system, but we have also other systems. We have made a system here with there, where the patients can actually play a car game with this system. So this car is controlled only by his muscle signals. So he can both control the speed and he can control which direction it goes. And also, we have a training routine here where the patient is supposed to match the position of that green arm. So they control the gray one, and they should match the position of the gray one. So they do this a number of movements, and then when they're done, they will get some kind of score to show how good they were. So we have a system here where patients can do several kinds of activities, and they all involve that they activate their phantom limb, which helps against this cortical reorganization. So this patient of ours, he visited us for 18 weeks, once a week, and tried the system. And we measured his pain levels during that time. And this is the results. So this is, if you divide his day into percent, this is the x-axis, and then weeks on the other axis. And then the ranges go from 0, which is no pain at all, and then to 100%, which is the worst imaginable pain. And you can see when he came to us, he had pain constantly, at least 30% always. And then he had periods where he would have extreme pain, and also between less pain and a lot of pain. And in the beginning, actually, he got a bit more of pain. But he thought it was interesting and really wanted to use the system. So he kept going on. And then after 4 weeks, he began to have less pain in some periods. And after 10 weeks, he began to have periods without pain at all. And this patient, he had been an amputee for 48 years. He had pain constantly during all that time. And for the first time in 48 years, he experienced that he had no pain. He was awoken at night due to these intense pain episodes he had. But for the first time, he had periods without pain at all. And today, he doesn't wake up at night anymore. And his wife is sure that he will live like 10 more years because pain plays a smaller role of his life. So nowadays, so you can see the pain, he has very, very, very small parts of the day with the high pain, and bigger parts of the day with less pain. So the benefits of our system is that it allows for a wider range of activities. It's not just having your hand in a box and doing this kind of motion. You can play games, you can see yourself with a virtual arm. It's more entertaining. It can be performed by the patient, which gives more freedom, it's less time consuming, and it's also cheaper because they don't need a clinician, and this runs on a standard PC. So give them a PC, give them one of our boxes, and they're good to go. And our initial thought is that this works better than the mirror box. So right now, we're doing a clinical study of this in Sweden and Slovenia. And we have only chosen patients for whom the mirror box did not work. Because, as I said, it's not everyone this works for. So we have tried to take the hard cases, so to speak. And the initial results are good, but we are still conducting the trial, so we can make no conclusions of it yet. And by the way, the original software is open source. It's called BioPatrick, and it's originally designed for this prosthetic control. But you can go ahead, download it, and use some of these virtual environments, adapt it to what you may want to do, adapt it to some games. And then we are in the process of taking this Neuromotus, which is the more commercial version, and we are trying to make this suitable for non-technical users. like clinicians and patients. Yeah. So the future perspective of this is that now it's a system for clinics. In the future, it will be a system you can take at home and use. And later on, we hope we can treat patients with stroke or who had had a spinal cord injury, because they have similar symptoms. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Good stuff. You are from Sweden,
Yeah.
but you're actually from Denmark.
Yeah.
The people in your team are from Mexico and Iceland. How did you all get together and learn how to work together?
Well, I got in contact with Max, who is one of the Mexicans. He visited my university, got in contact with my advisor, and then he was like, oh, I need a person who can do this augmented reality stuff. And then my professor was like, oh, I know a guy. So we got the contact there. I did some projects. And then when I graduated, he was like, come to Sweden. So I did. And then the others have come along the way.
So it's a real multicultural global project, and for a very specific reason. Are there any questions from the jurors first? Yes, please.
Hi, so a pretty cool project, but I was wondering, now there are like other companies who build more end-user neurotransmitters like the Mio armband. I'm pretty sure you're aware of that. So I think your strength is more in the software, but it seemed that you want to sell like a box. So what are your plans on that?
Well, currently it's still very much a research project. So the specific sales model is still under discussion. But we of course hope that in the beginning we can give this to the clinicians, and then the clinicians can distribute this to the patients later on. But we are still in the process of finalizing the hardware and the software for clinical, for patient use.
Okay, thank you very much, Jörg. Any other questions from the jurors? Any? Yes, sure. You can. You are not a juror, but you are interested. Yes. Max.
I'm part of the team. So the Mio band cannot do these kind of things. It's been commercialized and there's a lot of publicity, but today is not a product, and it cannot do that fine pattern recognition. So you can do some big movements, but you will not get to do like wrist movements or finger movements and so on. No, we use in machine learning and stuff that they use a lower level.
Okay, very good. Olga, please.
Thank you. I would like to ask you, what's your personal motivation to do that project? And where do you see yourself in 10 years? What's the criteria of success for you in 10 years?
Oh, that's a hard question. I try not to plan too much ahead because I find it a bit constricting. But my motivation is to help these people. Because before I came to Sweden, I had never tried to have that patient contact. And when you have made something and you have these people try it out and they are so thankful for what you do and you see how it changes their lives, that has had a real powerful effect on me. So in 10 years, I hope that this system is out there being used and that phantom limb pain will be something of the past.
Thank you very much for this. Anybody else having a question from the students from somewhere else? I can see somebody who has a very critical look. Belinda, do you want to ask something? You are from the Technical University in Graz. Have you ever seen something like this before?
No, I've never seen something like this before, but I find it quite interesting. But my question would be, there are not that many people who have missing limbs. How did you get the idea to create something for them? I think it's a great idea, but how did you get it?
Well, it's because we work with prosthetic control. So the prosthetics that the patients use, the amputees use, we were working with those already. So we are in that community of amputees and patients. And then we saw this problem and had an idea, and then it happened. It was a bit of a coincidence, you could say, but a very nice one, I would like to add.
Okay, then let's say thank you very much, Neuromotus, Healthy Life. Morten, thank you very much.